We've taken these various theories and they've become so ingrained in the culture and fabric of the way we do church that the interpretations, the theories, the doctrines become so commonplace in our vocabulary and our practices that without knowing it, without deliberately doing so, we take these interpretations with years and years of tradition to back them up, and we put that on top of the Scripture. And so when we read the Scripture, we're not necessarily getting a pure reading of the Scripture, but we have blind spots. We have filters that we're reading through that's influencing the way we do everything, the way we think about things. And so it's very difficult that if you pick up a passage of Scripture to really get to the original intent of that passage of Scripture and not realize that you're reading through thousands of years of teaching and doctrine and history, because it's been so ingrained in the fabric of who we are. And then what's very common in evangelical circles, very conservative expressions of Christian faith, is this last one, the penal substitution theory. And it had its origin with the Reformers. And what happened here was that Jesus stepped in and took our place. That we were sentenced guilty. That we were all sinners. And we had all fallen short of God. And that we were destined to be separated from God. And we were declared guilty. But Jesus, at the critical time, stepped in and took the judgment of God so that we could have the mercy of God. Jesus took the wrath of God so that we could experience the grace and the blessing of God instead. Jesus took our place. This is that theology. This is probably the most common theology. Interestingly enough, when C.S. Lewis was coming to the faith, or before he came and became a Christian, he had a very strong critique against this type of thinking. He called it cosmic child abuse. Yeah. And if you think about it, right? And I think over time, I started to wonder why, if God is benevolent, if God is pure, if God is love, if God is capable of producing and creating the universe and so much power, why would God take an innocent person and subject them or permit them or allow them to be crucified to make something good happen? If God is all-powerful, if God is benevolent, if God is love, then can't God do this a different way? It started to rub up against me in a very harsh way early on in some of my early Christian formation in my own walk and becoming a minister too, thinking through these things. So those are some theories that still have impact on the way people teach and do church. All right. This is for you, Elijah. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maggie and Phil like this too, right? The fourth part of the Star Wars story, right? The first movie. The fourth part of the story. The first movie of Star Wars. Do you remember this? Lightsabers? Do you remember going? Did you? Now, I was like 4 years old when this came out. I remember it. I was excited. I had a lightsaber. And there's this epic moment where Obi-Wan Kenobi there on the right side with the blue lightsaber, he's fighting Darth Vader. And Luke Skywalker is separated from them. Luke Skywalker has really connected and really bonded with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi was starting to train Luke Skywalker to be a Jedi. And they made this real good connection. And Obi-Wan Kenobi's fighting Darth Vader in this epic showdown, good versus evil. And Luke Skywalker can't do anything. He's watching this, and Han Solo is getting what was Han Solo's ship named?
Falcon. Millennium Falcon.
Yes, not the Enterprise. Who said that? You're just causing trouble now. And you remember they're fighting, and then at one point, a very pivotal moment, Obi-Wan Kenobi lays down his lightsaber, or he stops fighting. And he stops fighting, and there's a hesitation there, just for a moment, but not much of a hesitation, and Darth Vader finishes them off. Well, Obi-Wan Kenobi was making the Force, in actuality, stronger by doing this, by not resisting evil. He found a way to defeat evil. And so you have, I call this the Obi-Wan Kenobi Review, Christus Victor Theory. Gustav Hollein wrote a book entitled This Ideal, Christus Victor Theory, in 1931. And this was essentially it, that Jesus found a way through passive, nonviolent resistance to defeat evil. To be like the stick in the spoke of the Roman Empire is usually how I describe it. The stick in the spoke of the Roman Empire. Jesus gave himself to defeat evil that way, in this non-violent way. Kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi way. Now, in recent years, people have tried to say, hey, there's something to this Christus Victor theory, and they've tried to make it a narrative way, that when we stand in solidarity with those marginalized, and when we stand with those on the outskirts of society, when we stand with those that have been victimized, when we stand with those that have been exploited, that we are finding a way to resist evil. We are confronting evil, but not in a violent way. Nakashimi Brock, she was here a few weeks ago, we talked about, she had this great quote, really showing what the intention of crucifixion was. Crucifixion was designed to save the empire, the Roman Empire. Or whatever empire it serves. Crucifixion was designed to save the empire. We must offer a way of saving this life with wisdom about evil, with sorrow for all that violence destroys, and with profound, deep love for the beauties of creation and the source of life abundant. What Brock is doing, among others, is that she's reframing the question. It's not, why did Jesus have to die? But what is important about Jesus' life? What did we receive from Jesus' life? It's not focusing on the death of Jesus, but focusing on the life of Jesus. The life of Jesus. And this was the debate I was having with my friend. We were going back and forth. Does the death of Jesus trump the life of Jesus? Or is the life of Jesus more important and more inspiring in our lives? And so she found a beautiful way to start to reframe it. In fact, she had a very, very interesting observation. She pointed out that in the first 1,000 years of church history, if you go and you look at the art of Christian history, the first 1,000 years of murals and things like that there's no images of a dead Jesus. There's no depictions of a dead, crucified Jesus. So I've kind of bankrolled that moment, bookmarked that moment, and I want to kind of look for that too, because I thought, well, that can't be possible. I'm sure there's a dead Jesus out there in the first 1,000 years of church art. But, I've been looking, and I haven't found any dead Jesuses yet in the first 1,000 years of church art. And so that says that the early church folks coming to church, that they were focusing more on the life of Jesus, the source of life. And I thought, ooh, that changes things a little bit. But we've been so trained in our generation, the generation before us, the generation before that, to think of atonement as blood sacrifice. But what if we start to think of atonement as a living connection with God? Not based on violence or blood sacrifice, but on love and life. I think it could be very helpful to us.